a single room inside the White House. The most powerful oil executives in America facing a president who believes Venezuela can be restarted fast, clean, on command. This is not a discussion about oil. It is a collision between political will and economic gravity. Venezuela's oil industry didn't collapse overnight, and it will not be rebuilt by optimism. Yet the expectation is clear. Donald Trump wants results. More barrels, quick wins. A headline: the executives know something the public rarely hears. Energy systems don't obey politics. They obey infrastructure, incentives, and risk. So their message is carefully designed. Yes, production can rise, but only incrementally, only with sanctions relief, only under conditions no speech can erase. If you want to understand how power truly works today, pay attention, because this meeting reveals more than oil. It reveals how reality pushes back, and that is where this story truly begins. At the center of this story is a simple question: can political power override economic reality? Donald Trump believes it can, or at least that it should. From his perspective, Venezuela is obvious. The country sits on the largest proven oil reserves on earth. The government has fallen. The United States controls the oil sales. So why isn't production surging? But the oil industry sees a very different picture. What looks like a switch is actually a system damaged by years of sanctions, by decaying infrastructure, by legal uncertainty, by security risks no balance sheet can ignore. Trump wants speed. The industry wants stability. That tension defines everything that follows. Executives are not refusing to help. They are redefining what help realistically means. Not billions, not miracles, but a first step, a controlled increase measured in hundreds of thousands of barrels, not millions. To understand why even that is hard, we need to go backward into Venezuela's past, into how this system was broken in the first place. And that takes us to the roots of the collapse. To understand Venezuela's oil problem, you have to understand time, because energy systems decay slowly and then they fail suddenly. Before 1999, Venezuela was a heavyweight, more than 3 million barrels of oil per day, a functioning national oil company, global relevance. Then came Hugo Chavez. Oil became political, revenue became control, investment became optional. Over time, expertise drained away. Maintenance was deferred. Infrastructure aged. Sanctions later accelerated what mismanagement had already weakened. Equipment couldn't be replaced. Supplies couldn't move. Heavy crude couldn't flow without foreign inputs. By the time Nicolas Maduro was captured, production had collapsed. Around 1 million barrels per day, a shadow of its former self. This matters because oil production is path dependent. You cannot skip steps. You cannot leap decades of decay. What exists today is not a blank slate. It is a fragile system running near its limits. And when a system is that strained, even small shocks matter. Which brings us to the first breaking point. The moment when expectations and reality collide. The first crisis is not technical. It is psychological. It happens before any barrel moves. Before any contract is signed, it happens in that White House room. Donald Trump expects commitment, public confidence, momentum, but the executives arrive carrying caution. They know what an on-the-spot promise means. It means risk without protection, capital without guarantees, exposure without exit. So they hesitate, not openly, not defiantly, but carefully. Yes, they say. And then comes the pause. The conditions, the limits, sanctions must be eased, supplies must flow, security must improve. This is the dodgeball moment. Trump throws speed. The industry ducks with realism. And in that exchange, something becomes clear. This will not be a bold return. It will be a narrow opening. A phase one, small gains, low visibility, low risk. If you're watching closely, this is the tell, not confrontation, but containment, because once expectations are set too high, failure becomes inevitable. And the real story is not what's said in the room. It's the system underneath that refuses to move faster. That's what we need to uncover next. Beneath the politics lies a constraint no speech can overcome. Venezuela's oil is heavy, thick, difficult to move. It requires blending agents, special equipment, foreign supplies. Sanctions didn't just block money. They broke logistics. Pipelines corroded, storage deteriorated, skilled workers left. So when executives talk about increasing production, they are not talking about drilling. They are talking about squeezing more from what already exists. That means restarting idle wells, repairing aging facilities, finding workarounds. Chevron can do this. They never left. They understand the terrain. They know the risks. Exxon and Conoco are different. They exited. Re-entry requires trust. Trust requires law. Law requires time. This is the hidden mechanism, incremental growth without systemic repair. A few 100,000 barrels, with luck, with permission, with restraint. Anything beyond that demands something far larger. Capital, security, political continuity. Until then, Venezuela's oil future is capped not by ambition, but by structure. And that structure sets the stage for the second crisis, one that extends beyond boardrooms. The second crisis is faster, sharper, and far less predictable. It is the timeline. Donald Trump talks in months. 18 at most, a restart, a surge, a win. But energy timelines don't compress that way. Every shortcut increases risk. Every rush decision multiplies uncertainty. Security is unresolved. Legal authority is unclear. No one knows how long the United States plans to run Venezuela's oil system. Executives hear pressure. Investors hear danger. So instead of acceleration, the system stalls. Meetings multiply. Decisions slow. Capital waits. This is the paradox. The harder the push, the more resistance appears. Even optimistic scenarios depend on fragile assumptions. Sanctions relief, stable governance, predictable rules. Remove one and the entire plan weakens. This is why officials quietly lower expectations. Not millions of barrels, not a renaissance, just a modest rise. Because the real crisis isn't oil, it's credibility. And when credibility fractures, the effects don't stop at industry leaders. They reach ordinary people. That's where this story turns personal. The impact of these decisions isn't just felt in boardrooms or government offices. It's felt by the people. Venezuelans are already living with the consequences of failed promises. Years of economic collapse, scarcity, and uncertainty. Their lives are bound to the energy industry. It is their lifeline, their hope for recovery. When the executives talk about increases in production, it's not just numbers. It's jobs, it's food, it's medicine. But what happens when that promise falls short? What happens when the oil doesn't flow as expected? When the production increase is too small, too slow? The disappointment isn't just abstract. It's tangible. It's in the empty shelves, the unlit homes, the stalled hospitals. Trump's political ambitions risk being more than just a failure for his administration. They risk deepening the despair of an already struggling population. And yet there's a deeper question. How far will the oil industry go to meet this demand? Their answer, carefully, cautiously, and with strings attached. This isn't a moral stance. It's a survival strategy. Because in Venezuela, every barrel counts. And in this fragile landscape, each drop of oil is more than just energy. It's a lifeline. The ripple effect of this issue stretches far beyond Venezuela. it doesn't just impact oil companies or political leaders. It impacts the global balance of energy. Venezuela has the largest oil reserves on the planet. It sits at the heart of a region already unstable. A country in crisis can quickly become a crisis for its neighbors and the world. If the U.S. manages to restore Venezuela's oil production, the implications go far beyond regional geopolitics. Countries like China and Russia are watching. They have stakes in Venezuela's future too. Their influence could shift depending on how this process unfolds. For the U.S., this is more than an oil issue. It's about controlling a vital piece of the global energy puzzle. It's about shifting the regional power dynamic. But even here, the industry remains cautious. It knows that a broken system doesn't recover overnight. What happens in Venezuela won't just shape oil prices. It could shape alliances, policies, and security strategies across the globe. The ripple effect of this fragile recovery is far-reaching, and it's only beginning. Now, let's look to the future. There are three paths ahead, three potential futures for Venezuela's oil. The best case, sanctions are fully lifted, the political system stabilizes, investment pours in, production skyrockets. This is the dream. It's a future where Venezuela's oil industry returns to its former glory, a future where the country recovers. But it requires the impossible, a perfect storm of cooperation, stability, and investment. The middle case, sanctions are partially lifted. The political situation remains volatile. Production increases slowly. Venezuela stabilizes just enough to get by, but not enough to thrive. This is the most likely scenario. It's a long, hard slog, incremental growth, a slow and fragile recovery. The worst case, sanctions remain, the political situation deteriorates, investment dries up, oil production stagnates. This path leads to deeper poverty. Widespread despair. Venezuela's oil dreams turn into a distant memory, a country unable to leverage its most valuable asset. The future isn't set. It will depend on decisions made today. But one thing is certain, the recovery will not be swift, and the risks will remain high. In the end, this story is more than just about oil. It's about power, decisions, and the price of failure. The executives may walk out of that meeting with a promise, but the real work is just beginning. They will have to navigate the forces of politics, economics, and uncertainty. And let's be clear, this is not a simple energy crisis. This is a geopolitical battle with real consequences. Venezuela's future hangs in the balance. Its oil industry, once a symbol of strength, now represents both opportunity and risk. The question isn't whether production can increase, it's whether the political system can stabilize long enough to allow that increase to happen. And if the world watches closely, the answer will reveal much more than just barrels of oil. It will reveal the limits of power, the complexities of rebuilding, and the price that comes with every decision made in that room. Now, as the dust settles from this meeting, the question remains, who will have the last word in Venezuela's oil story?